back to the Marvel Movie Minute, a daily podcast in which we dig in deep to analyze the films of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, 1 minute at a time. I'm Andy Nelson from thenextreel.com.
And I'm Pete Wright, also from The Next Reel.
We are, of course, looking at Jon Favreau's 2008 film Iron Man, and we're closing out the week with Minute 75. On today's show, the minute starts with a news report about Gulmira villagers hiding in an old Soviet smelting plant and ends with Tony smashing some windows with a new hero pose.
I love it when Tony gets smashy.
He does quite a bit of that in this minute.
He
It's great.
sure does.
This is a fun minute.
He's just total disregard for his own property. I adore it.
You can do that when you're rich. Smash things,
But
break
this is
guitars.
like foundation stuff he's messing with. And I don't know if he remembers. His house is on a cliff.
He's not hitting any of the foundation. He's hitting lights and windows.
You don't think he's hit anything load bearing?
Yeah, it would be smart for them to. It's smart for them to not show us as he blasts the window to like leaving a giant hole in the wall behind the window.
Right.
We don't see that. Yeah.
Do a quick cutaway. I really like this one. We were talking last time about the stock footage of Warlords.
Yes.
And here we have just destruction in this factory and more warlords. But again, you have such a much better eye for this than I do. The only one I think we have in here is Ferran Tahir. Is that right? Do you see anybody else familiar?
No, it's a lot of kind of obscure shots of people as they run around. It's hard to pinpoint exactly who we see. But this is a key moment because this is, the last time Tony saw Raza, he was blasting him with a rocket and blowing up the wall of the cave, and presumably buried and dead in the cave. This is the moment that Tony sees Raza and realizes he's alive.
Yeah. Well, the other thing I was wondering is that the hero pose he takes as he stretches his arm, the TV in the background has a mother, but immediately before that is a shot of hands holding a photograph. Is that photograph something we should know? That felt a little bit too obvious in terms of the television footage that I felt like I should have seen that. You don't think so?
No, because if you listen to it, it's just, I think that it's basically the story saying, this child is looking for his parents and the woman is looking for her husband. I think, that's basically, they're just giving us a sense of these stories. All of this material at the Gulmira village and at the outskirts was filmed at the Blue Cloud Movie Ranch. And I'm guessing that all of this stuff that we're seeing, even at the smelting plant, I think might probably be in the same area. But I'm guessing that it's just footage of people that they have, and then they just kind of cut it together to make it look like news footage. But the script, it references, as we hear the reporter talking, she says, a 7-year-old boy, thin as a scarecrow, clutching yellowed photographs and holding them out to anyone who would stop with the child's simple question, "Where are my mother and father?" A woman begging for news of her husband who'd been kidnapped by insurgents, either forced to join their militia or to be shot without reason. So I think that's what we're seeing here, is that sort of footage. And I think what I think often happens with B-roll is they'll have the script, and they need to go out and collect this footage. They'll talk with Favreau and say, get stuff that looks like this, and then they just go get it and then cut it together.
And then we just have this one little mandatory beat, which is insert, Ferran here.
Yeah, right. That's the one key shot that they definitely make sure they get.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
It's good stuff. And actually, I'm going to talk about more of this later when we get to the actual attack when Iron Man in the Mark III suit arrives at Gulmira with the smelting plant, because there's an interesting story about some of this footage in this smelting plant, and I'm looking forward to that conversation at that point.
Okay.
But at this point, we'll leave it a mystery. Yes, indeed.
It's a mystery, yes. Right.
I think it's also important to note that not only do we see Raza, but we do see the Jerichos again. Just as another reference point that his weapons, it's not just his guns and stuff. It's these actual Jericho missiles that are there.
Right.
And it's a big thing that we're seeing these.
Yeah, and they use the cuts back and forth to Tony on the couch really effectively, right? The first one we see the hollowed out actual factory, and we see some gunfire from the back of the truck, and then we cut to Tony, a close-up shot, and he's tightening the wrist gauntlet, and it lights up ever so slightly, right? It's like a muscular flex. And then we cut back to actually see Raza, and Raza is looking straight at the camera like he's giving us a little pose. Then to the Jericho, and that's even harder for Tony. He has to look away now as he's tightening his fist. And that's when he stands up. I think that's just a very effective couple of cuts there to demonstrate his emotional state.
Well, and you can continue his emotional state because as he stands and starts walking, he takes that giant screwdriver of his and he just chucks it at his coffee cups.
Why would he do that? Why would he do that?
It's so strange, but his coffee cups are always upside down, or they're sitting there for days.
No, the screwdriver's in the sugar. So when we the next shot, so every time he walks by the kitchen, I'm like looking at what is on the surfaces, and it looks like he's got some Nature's Miracle dish soap cleaner, and those paper towels, they look recycled. Like those paper towels do not look like Bounty or anything, or Bounce or whatever it is. They look pre-brown. Yes, they're pre-browned. They're dirty, right. Dirty towels. So then we get the hero shot where he lifts his arm, and we see that he has a Nintendo.
Is that a Wii? I don't know when the Wiis came out.
It is. It's a Wii. He has a Wii and a photo of his dad.
And then some other photo, I don't know what that other photo is, that's directly under the TV, but there's a big one and his dad, and then the green apples that we've seen off and on.
That's right.
Something else that I have not brought up, but I feel like I should have a number of times. I've had the opportunity because I've seen the painting back there behind on the left, the one that's kind of it's like a black, white, horizontal bars.
Sure.
That is Adriatics by Bryce Martin.
Oh, fancy that. I did not know.
Yeah. I think he did a series of them, and that's one of them. I don't know.
Is it for sale?
Which one, but I don't know if it's for sale or not. I can't find that specific one. All the ones that I see of Adriatics are just the 2-bar versions. So,
well, I'm on the market, so if you find it,
I'll let you know when I find out how much you need to drop for that one.
Can we move to what I believe is potentially the most controversial technology question in the entire series?
Oh, really? And what would that be?
I'm beginning at second 35. Right, we're looking at Tony. I'm frozen on this, and I am now cycling forward in the minute, frame by frame. All right. And what you'll see as his repulsor in his hand begins to brighten, looking at his chest, the tubes coming out of his chest begin to fill like curly straws with some sort of repulsor juice coming out of his chest. Repulsor juice, Andy.
I love it. Yeah.
I think I love it. But weird. I don't think have we ever talked about the fact that there is a substance in these straws that has to be incredibly reactive, and it's just in straws. It's in straws, Andy. It's repulsor juice, and then it comes pouring out of his hand. What justification do we have here?
Spraying juice everywhere. This is a juice man.
It is. It's some sort of nuclear juice.
I don't know.
Are you not fired up about this? Fired up.
I love it.
Did you hear what I did?
It's so cool. Yes, you're very clever. It's something, it happens so fast. I don't think I ever watched the little chords.
10 frames.
It's very short. But I love it. It's a great little ad that they actually have the arc reactor. To me, it's like you're seeing how it's powering that stuff up, and it's I don't know. I think it's cool.
Well,
whether it's
this is my question: is this how electricity works?
Radioactive blue juice.
Is this how electricity works? Like, if all of our cords were clear, would we see the juice flowing through them? Is this how that works? Because man, we have been sold a bill of goods. I think we would
pretty
have
incredible. Really.
our STEM programs would be just overflowing with candidates who want to learn about the electrical goo that runs through our cords. It's amazing.
It is. It really is fantastic the way that it does that. We need to have more clear power cords so that we can enjoy
transparency in engineering. That's what this is a call for. We need posters and a walkout of something. So I do like, in all seriousness, I love this transition because as soon as he fires, we cut to a reverse shot on him. We're behind him and he knocks himself back.
And he blows up his lights. It's fantastic.
It's perfect. And I love the pose as he throws himself backward, and realizes the power that's in this gauntlet. Well, I also love that this seems to come to him as sort of a surprise, right? Like, he wasn't aware that he could unleash this kind of technology as a weapon, as an offensive thing. It seems like this is the first time he's recognizing he could do something different than just stabilize flight. And I love that because this is a follow-on to the last minute's set of surprises where he's frustrated, he learns horrible things, he realizes he needs to change gears, with this Iron Man suit and use it for something different. And now he realizes how he's going to do that. And I think this package of 3 minutes is a really special kind of unveiling, and it's very efficient, one after the other.
I will say it's amazing the kick that he gets from the blast here.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it like throws his arm back. Like if it wasn't attached, it would have thrown his arm right off of his body. Right? It's a really strong kick.
Thank God it's attached arms.
Thank God. We go from that, and then he's got the next couple blasts that he has, and it never has the same kick. Or he's maybe he's just really kind of
ready for it,
grown to expect what it is. But still, I mean, he does a great job of maintaining, considering how much kick he had off that first one.
What I wonder is his pose, right? He has this new hero pose we mentioned, right? And the hero pose, he has his, in this case, his right arm has the gauntlet on it and is firing, and his other hand is up. Is that a protective move that that he's sort of just emerged out of the activity of firing? Because it looks really cool. Right. I mean, it looks like a cool move that one might just do to pose, but is there also a purpose behind it?
I don't know if there's a purpose behind it. It's hard to tell like what he's doing every time. If he's always raising, like the first time that he does it, you can't quite tell. I mean, it looks like he's raising his hand, but is he holding it up like he's pretending he's also blasting with that hand?
Right.
Because the other two times it kind of looks like he's doing that, but actually the way that I think it is, so when he goes over to the windows, the first time you just can't quite see what he does with his left hand because it's a real close. The second time he turns, he is actually holding his arm up with like his left hand is actually holding his arm.
Oh, I see. Yeah, I see what you're saying there. But then at the very last frame of the minute, he's not.
Right. The third time you get the kind of the ninja move where he's kind of just holding them both up like he does the spin blast.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's playing around. I think he's just having fun, clearly. But it's an important moment because this is that great. I think it's nicely written how the audio comes back in from the reporting. There's very little hope for these refugees who can only wonder if anyone will help.
Right.
As he walks up to the glass, and then the focus shifts from him to his reflection in the glass as he sees himself. It's like he's going to be the one who's going to help. It might be a little obvious, but I think it actually works pretty nicely here.
I do too.
And I also like that, I don't know why, but clearly the fact that he's now blasting his windows to pieces is not enough to set off any alarms of any kind in his house.
Yeah, that's a good point. Oh, Tony.
I mean, it's quite a security system that he has.
Maybe what he's discovering is that it's through this activity that he's actually discovering that his security system is terrible. And this is what leads to Ultron.
I will say, we're going back to what we were saying earlier. He blasts the windows. Mm-hmm. You do actually see right at the very end of this minute, about second 58, you see all as the last window falls, or the second to last window falls, you see the walls behind the windows.
Yeah.
And they're totally fine. It's a very narrow blast.
Very narrow. Like he can choose
yeah.
it. It throws him back significantly, and yet it only extends about 6 feet.
Well, I don't know. The first blast that he does from the other side of the room
clearly is longer.
I mean, he shoots down the length of his workshop, and it's not like the close lights that he hits.
No.
It's like lights that are about 3 or 4 lights down that he hits. Yeah.
And that cross shot in the last few seconds when we're looking down the angle of the thing, it looks burned out.
Yeah.
Like it's a hollow shell of a workshop.
Yeah, you're seeing a bunch of sparks and everything.
And hanging cords from the ceiling. Yeah. It's terrible.
Yeah. I mean, really, but if you look at it, really all he does, he knocks a light off the ceiling.
Right.
That's it. It creates some sparks. It looks like it hits the fire sprinkler pipe. So I guess it's lucky that he didn't knock the fire sprinklers and set them off.
But what other wonderful antiques does he blow up in his library, right? At least he didn't touch the planes.
Yeah, those. He's got a great set of model planes behind him that you can see. As he's gearing up to do the work, to do his first test at about 34 seconds, and then as he walks forward, you see a set of probably about it looks like 6 model planes behind him. They're really hard to tell what they are because the angle, the size, and I'm just not that astute with my planes, but it looks like the first one is the XB-70 Valkyrie, and then the next one, it looks like an F-17. I can't quite tell. The third one looks like the X-36. The fourth one, I don't know. It almost looks like a 747 or something.
Yeah, it's like it's like Air Force One kind of a thing. Yeah.
And then you've got the Phantom, and then there's a clock, which lets us know that it's. We're assuming that this is after the fundraiser, so it's probably just a little after midnight. And then the very last one there, I can't quite tell what that one is, but it looks like a supersonic jet of some sort.
Yeah,
nice models. It's a nice set of models that he has there. I really like the Phantom that he has. It's a cool looking one.
Yeah, it's very cool. Is that time possible?
To be midnight?
Well, the shorthand looks like it's just to the left of the 12, which means it should be like 11:50 something, but the longhand is to the right of the 12.
Yeah.
So
it's, it depends on how well the clock is working. If it's an older clock and the minute hand is not quite lined up, like it could be midnight where it should be lined up at midnight, but the minute hand is, for whatever reason, just a little off. So I think it could work.
It seems like an interesting thing that is the not reliable thing in Tony's lab.
But it looks like an old clock. And to that end, I'm like,
yeah, it looks like, and it looks like a clock that was out of like the cockpit of an old plane or out of an old like airplane hangar. You know what I mean? It looks like an old airport clock. Like you would see this, flying through Tulsa in 1972 on the wall, something like
that.
You know
exactly
what I mean?
That.
What has now become a flyover state. It used to be a major hub, and this was a clock there, and it means something to him. I have reasons.
You have reasons, right? Oh, it's very funny. I mean, the last thing I really wanted to say about this minute is, and going back to kind of what we were talking about with the hero's call, the fact that Tony's been making this suit, but it's not necessarily had a reason. This is the moment where all of a sudden it seems like, as you mentioned, it seems like he's realizing that there's some militarized power options with what he's developing here. The fact that he blasts, he's so mad that he's fiddling around with his gauntlet, with his flight stabilizer, and he blasts it, and it actually does something. It actually kind of destroys elements of his office, and he looks at it, and it's like there's this trigger with him. And I don't know what the trigger is. Like, what is it that really sets him off? Is it the fact that the 10 rings are still active? Is it that Raza is alive? Is it the fact that Yinsen's hometown of Gulmira is being destroyed? Does Tony want revenge? Is he looking to avenge Yinsen and become an Avenger? See what I did there?
That was good.
Does he just want to? Does he want to save all these innocent people? I don't know. I'm not sure what it is. I don't know. Do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I think he was already cemented. His path was already cemented with the pictures and the news from Obi. I think he was going down this road. I think what's infuriating him and is just further cementing his resolve to move in this direction, and that comes with the glorious surprise that it turns out the suit is powerful in different ways than he expected. There is a thing that is interesting to me around the script. It seems like they've adjusted the rhythm of the scene and how he is messing with the gauntlet, in relationship to the clips from the TV from the news. Is that feel right to you? It feels like it's a much more sort of dramatic, portrayal of the gauntlet's power after the news clips are done. And in the scripts, in the script, he actually is, I don't know if I'm not hearing it right, but he's actually shooting at the light fixtures and then coming back to long stretches of TV reporting.
Well, it's tricky because it's one of those things where obviously multiple things are happening at once. The TV's playing and he's doing this stuff. And the way that you'd have to do that in the script is like a 2-column thing where you have the TV on one side and then you have his actions on the other. And I think that we're getting here is just, they're playing the TV stuff and then they're showing what Tony's doing. And then they're going back and forth.
And it gets super quiet because the gauntlet has its own vibrational noise and we lose track of the voices on the screen. You can kind of still hear them behind him toward the end of this minute, but you can't make out what they're saying anymore.
Yeah, and I think some of that's just the way that they chose to mix it, because obviously they're wanting us to pay attention to what he's doing. But as I said earlier, when he walks up and his reflection kind of changes, they want us to really pay attention to what the reporter is saying, and that audio really kind of kicks back in.
Yeah, I think that's I think that makes sense. I feel like the portrayal on screen of this scene is terrific, and is paced it's just perfect. It gives us a chance to see the power of this suit using only one part, and that takes a lot of subtlety.
And we get the inner workings of it by watching the new radioactive blue juice.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, the RT juice.
Cool. Yeah, I don't know if I have anything else for this minute.
I certainly don't.
All right, well, let's wrap it up then. That's it for today's show, everybody. Thanks so much for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe to the show for free at marvelmovieminute.com. Join us over in our Discord chat room and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at The Next Reel. And if you like what we do and you want to support us and get some cool stuff, become a patron over at thenextreel.com/Patreon. Until next time, true believers,